Hello and welcome to what is a special edition of Off the Fence, brought to you in association with Bet365. This is our kind of Christmas edition and it's right bang in the middle of the festive period. We hope you're enjoying your Christmas and a bit of time off. But let's crack straight on, boys. I've got Barry Geraghty with me and Tony Keenan like normal. Let's go straight in with a question for Barry. John Joe Murphy, best horse you've ever ridden, Barry. Pretty straightforward. You must have been asked it 1,000 times before. Who's the best horse you've ever ridden?
I have, and the answer's been the same. Moscow and Sprinter, I can't split them. Two superstars. Visually and in every way, Sprinter was amazing. And you saw what he was, and he beat size in Europe with 20 lengths in the champion chase going away. But Moscow, on the other hand, would beat Azertiub and Well Chief by 2.5 lengths with an ear pricked and probably another 10 lengths up the sleeve. So you never actually knew what Moscow had in the tank, and he'd beat an average horse the same as he'd beat a good horse. So I could never say, albeit Sprinter was visually more impressive and was really impressive, I could never say he was better than Moscow, and Moscow along with that went 4 full seasons unbeaten when I didn't fall off him. So to hold that level of form, at some point he must have been an absolute aeroplane.
Yeah, actually, on that note, so I am listening to your book. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's actually a great book and I'm thoroughly enjoying listening to the audiobook True Colours by Barry Geraghty. And the Moscow Flyer years, I'm a 90s baby. Sorry, boys, I don't mean to put you to shame or anything. But obviously, like, my love of racing was towards the end of my teenage years. And it's sort of like, I knew he was a legend, Moscow Flyer. But when you listen to your book, Barry, that whole thing of 4 years when he stood up, he was unbeaten, and was it 19 chase starts unbeaten? And the way you talk about him, I guess, no, maybe not the best horse you've ever ridden, because like you say, you can't split him and Sprinter, but in terms of the horse that did the most for you in your career, surely he's the one at the top of the tree, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I got him when I was 20. Rode, he was actually my second grade winner was on him in Fairyhouse, but you had him all the way through, and to have a horse like that as a flagship horse, and everyone needs him, be a jockey or be a trainer, you need a flagship horse, and to get a horse like that, if I never had Sprinter, I had probably one of the best 2 mile chasers in Moscow, but then to get Sprinter as well was the icing on the cake. But there were two superstars, but I had brilliant years on Moscow, and you know, he was a bit of a flawed hero, if you like, because he was so likely to stick with foot into a fence and turn a cartwheel or fire me out the side door. He was so unpredictable. And as a ride, he was the same. He was very hard. Actually, the last race I won him was in Aintree in 2005. And I got off him and I said to Jesse, that's the first good ride I've got off him. And he never won again.
And then he went downhill thereafter. It's mad, really. But I guess probably what made him so good in a way is that slight like edge of lunacy about him. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, definitely. He was a lot smaller horse than Sprinter Sacre. He wasn't 16'2", so he really lived on the edge. It's fine for a big horse who jumps well. You know, they're not out of their comfort zone as much. But Moscow, you know, he was rough and tumble and taking chances and willing to take chances. And every year he turned to the ditch in Cheltenham, I used to meet it long. And the first year I sent him at it, he dived at it, got away, dived at it again the second year and got away. And then the third year he dived at it but dived into it and sent me flying. But he was very unpredictable, and that's what made him such a difficult ride, because you could never second guess him. He could zone out and forget about what he was doing or look in the stands. He was great fun, but he wasn't easy.
Did he teach you a lot back then?
I would have learned a lot on him. It was probably at a point in a career when I was learning a lot anyway, but I was learning all the way through. I think you never stop learning, really, but he was, I promise you, he was a better ride in England when they were going fast, because you could just drop in, try and find a rhythm, and away you go. It was more straightforward. But in Ireland, he could be 2 to 5 favourite in the good 2 mile chase in Leopardstown at Christmas, and they jump out in a hack, and your man is pulling the arms out of you, and then he's not looking at fences, and he's making mistakes, and you're just throwing caution to the wind, because you don't know what to do. There was no bit of rhythm with him in a race like that, because he just was so blasé about it.
Mad, isn't it? Tony, just a quick line from you on Moscow Flyer. Were you a big Moscow fan? And when you're reading the book, I mean, Barry's obviously covered it pretty well, but those years, the glory years, weren't they?
Great days. They were the days I was getting into racing, going to Navan to see him in the 4-3 chase and things like that, starting out for the season. And sure, I was really only getting into it the year he won the Arkle, and should end the unbeaten run through the whole time. There'll be no disappointment at all from my end, the way he finished, like for those seasons and the Tingle Creeks and that Melling chase, not even to mention the champion chases, just brilliant longevity, and probably helped himself with that bit of longevity by not being the sort of horse that was maybe going to pull the 15 or 20 lengths clear. Always kept a little bit for himself.
Yeah, love it. Proper legend of the sport. And Tony, to bring it back to a little bit like bit of political land, I guess, we've got a question for you. The North Lights asks, why don't more connections look at the Dublin Racing Festival and the Leopardstown Christmas Festival as options? Nicky Richards has shown how profitable it can be, and it's prestigious in its own right. Owners are treated like royalty. I really don't get why more never consider it. I tell you what, the North Lights, if I ever owned a racehorse, I'd be coming over to Leopardstown at Christmas, almost over Cheltenham, and I mean that genuinely. That for me, that meeting, the way they treat you, the vibe around the place, the whole thing at Leopardstown at Christmas for me is what racing's all about, and I absolutely love it there. And I think you're right. I think Nicky Richards and a few other English trainers utilise it a little bit, but not really enough. And Tony, what would your view on all of that be?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Why they don't come? I suppose there's a little bit of the part of it. Sometimes we've been getting a little bit of a kicking in Cheltenham over the last few years. Why would you come over to get a kicking maybe at Christmas? I don't know that is strictly true. I think I would, if I were an English trainer thinking of coming to Ireland, I'd come at Christmas before I'd come now to the Dublin Racing Festival. I think it fits better for Cheltenham. I also think the races are probably a little bit softer at Christmas. Some of those Dublin Racing Festival contests can be very tough. There's also a thing, I don't realistically think you could take a handicap hurdler to Ireland. I kind of think you'd be mad to do that with the way the handicapping system works. Obviously, Irish hurdlers going over there are going to get extra weight. English horses coming over here aren't going to get dropped, so you'd be mad to do that. But overall, I don't know the answer. That would just be my few thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's mad in a way. Like Nicky Richards going over there. He's had some great days, to be fair to him. Yeah, really.
And though the few horses coming over the years have added to it. The Listener was a great horse for coming over. God, I remember him winning a few races, but probably more dramatic was the day Beaver Salmon just chinned him on the line. Brilliant race. Talk about lifting the roof of a place. So yeah, it is a pity. And What a Friend was another one. Denman, the 3 mile division there. I suppose maybe the Irish 3 mile division has got that little bit stronger in the last few years, which maybe has discouraged trainers from coming as well.
Yeah, fair enough. A question for all of us now from Chris Poole. Controversial, Chris. But we've put it in the running order, and so you're going to have your question answered. Chris Poole writes, given Nico de Boinville is average at best, and Coleman has already been given the nod for Epatante, who do the panel think will ride the JP horses housed at Seven Barrows come the festival? Well, my answer to that would be Nico de Boinville. I think generally he is potentially an underrated jockey because he's always getting on these smart horses now. But actually, if you watch him, and when you watch him schooling on the gallops and at home and how involved he is at the Henderson Yard, Barry, I think people only see a fraction of the full picture when they see Nico on a nice horse on a race course, because he's very heavily involved in the yard, isn't he?
He is, very much so. And Nico did all the early schooling on Sprinter Sacre. So I only schooled Sprinter a few times before his first run. Nico had done it all, and I didn't need to give him any instruction. I'd be saying to him, just keep him popping. But I didn't need to, because Nico was doing it. He was doing all the right things. So, no, he's a very good rider. And he was the first fella to win a Gold Cup in about 40 years on a novice with Coonigree. I think he was the first one since Captain Christie back in the 70s. So how good of a horseman does that take? So I wouldn't. For me, I'm a big Nico fan. He's a brilliant rider, and he's got the results to back it. He's at Cheltenham winners, left, right, and centre. He's been sitting very comfortable in the job as first jockey to Nicky, and it's really grown. He's grown into the role. So no, for me, he's a top class rider. As regards Epatante, Aidan won on Epatante last year when I was up with the Fighting Fifth. But the day Bouvier got injured, so he won on her there. It was probably an obvious choice to leave him ride Epatante because he knew her.
And
But
that
as
would be
regards
JP's style as well, wouldn't it? Would it not? To you know, he hasn't got a retained jockey now, and so Aidan gets on well with the horse that has now won a Grade 1 on her. That would be from him as well, wouldn't it?
Exactly. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So he got on really well with Epatant that day, so it would have made sense to leave him on her. But like that, then Chantry House came out, and albeit he disappointed last time, but Nico rode Chantry House, and I can't imagine Nico will be losing the ride on Chantry House over anything he did in Cheltenham anyway. So no, he's I'd imagine Nico will ride a lot of them, but I imagine Aidan will ride some as well. So I'm not exactly sure who will ride what, but you know, to leave Aidan on Epatant was obvious, but you'll see Nico ride an awful lot of the others, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, just a quick line on Richie McClernand as well. He's obviously normally, well, is based at John Joe Neal's, but I've noticed recently he's always come in for a lot of JP's rides, and he picks up a lot of the northern rides as well, and some of the second sort of meetings on a big day. But he's another jockey who, for me, I think he's brilliant in the saddle, a real natural horseman as well, Barry.
He is, and you see that especially on Aintree. You know, he's a brilliant rider. All year round. You can set your clock by Richie. You know, he's a great horseman, great hands. Horses jump from Regal Encore.
Yeah, that's it. Tricky ride, and he gets the best out of him.
He really does, and he goes to Ascot. He's won 6 or 7 times around Ascot for Richie. And he's not straightforward. Richie has the hang of him, and he knows him, and he understands him. And no, I think that's you see him shine. He's a very good rider. So there's, you know, Richie's as good as anyone in any situation. But yeah, I'd be a big fan.
Yeah, there's no shortage anyway for JP in terms of jockeys at this point. Another one for you, Barry, from Kevin Hill. Pretty simple one. How confident were you on Monty's pass before the National? They told you a year out that he was going to win, didn't they?
They did, yeah. He was second in the Topham in 2002 to It's Time for a Win, and we knew he'd want further. So he was Jimmy Mangan had planned the National from that day, so it was a year to the day he came back and he won the Aintree Grand National. As much as you could be going out on any horse in the race, you know, his jumping was foot perfect in the Topham the year before, so he had that box ticked. The ground was ideal. Jimmy was more than happy with the horse, so you're hoping with any normal luck that I had as good a ride as I could have or hope for in the race. But I remember jumping the water jump and heading away with a circle to go. I think I only had Gunnar Welburn and maybe one other horse in front of me, and I was doing an absolute canter. And from that point on, it was a case of just keeping a lid on him, not to get racing, not to, you know, wing a fence and get the blood up. All I had to do was just keep him popping and school away. And it was a procession for the second circuit on him. Never put a foot wrong, and I managed not to fall off him or do anything stupid. So it was as easy as you like, and probably a bit surreal how easy it was.
Mad, really, when you think about it. And in terms of, did you actually get to enjoy it, Barry? Like when you're spinning around on that second circuit, is the time in a Grand National on the second circuit to actually think, I could win a Grand National right now? I might be winning a Grand National.
I enjoyed it that much. I enjoyed the night before, so I had a good night the night before just to make sure I was having a nice time. But it was no, it was slow motion. It was slow motion. And probably the moment of the race was jumping the third last, and you're far enough away from the stands. You can't hear the commentary. There's no crowds on that area as such, and just an eerie silence. So I've Gunnar Welburn in front of me. I'm a dozen or 15 lengths clear of Amberley House, I think it was, and you know, sitting there doing an absolute canter, and you're on the verge of winning the biggest race in the world. And that was the moment I'll always savour, because you could hear a pin drop, and it was just pinch yourself moment.
Oh, you sum it up like that, it sounds absolute magic. Right, let's move on to one for you, Tony. I feel like Barry gets all the nice questions, and Tony, you get all the sort of slightly tougher questions, but I guess that's what the case is when we're just mere mortals next to our... What are you, Barry, now? A hero? A racing hero? Was that the award you won?
That was the award I got, yeah. I didn't pen it myself now, but yeah, racing hero. I didn't see that one coming.
Our racing hero, Barry Geraghty. Terrific. Right, Tony, to you. You're my hero, Tony, by the way, just as an FYI. Why do we still have a mare's allowance at Grade 1 level? Asked Lewis Knowles. Epatant and Annie Power have proved that they have won races in open Grade 1 company without an allowance. Think it needs scrapping for Grade 1s at least. What's your view on the mare's allowance, Tony?
Yeah, I actually don't have massively strong views. Both of those mares are really the exceptions, and there wouldn't be too many rated, up at their level into the 160s. Plus, they'd be highly infrequent, really. And the mare's allowance, I suppose, is an encouragement to race them rather than maybe to breed of them a bit earlier, would be my limited understanding of how that works. I know the whole mares programme does get a bit of a slate, and you'd love to see these horses maybe competing against the geldings, but I think it has definitely in Ireland anyway encouraged a few more of them to stay in training, and I wouldn't be making rules on the mare's allowance off the back of the exceptional ones. I think you do have to look at the broad horse population as a whole, rather than the epitants and any powers of the world.
Agreed. The rules rather than the exception to the rules. One for you, Barry, and we've already given him plenty of airtime, so just a quick line here from Phil Turner asks you, do you think Moscow Flyer should ever have had a stab at the King George in his prime?
Well, I was probably the one fella voting against it, because I kicking King in the King George in 2004 and 2005, which would have been the years Moscow could have gone there. So I was never suggesting it anyway. But he definitely, and especially the way he won his last race, an inch over 2.5, it was the furthest he won. He won a dozen or 15 lengths, and every other time he won, it was only ever by 2 or 3 lengths. So a trip would have been no problem to him, but it obviously wasn't going to suit me. But
Barry, in general there, as a question, do you think that trainers and owners and maybe everyone attached to the horse, do you think we pigeonhole horses in terms of trip maybe too much, and are they maybe that bit more versatile than we give them credit for? I suppose we don't really get a lot of examples of it. I think if you start a horse off for 2 miles and keeps winning at it, you probably just stick with it. But what do you reckon on that one?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's individual, but you're right in what you say. If you keep winning, why, if it's not broke, don't fix it. People talk about Deafy Desire, will it be a Ryanair horse, but he disappointed in the championship, but he won everything else, so there's no reason why he needs to step up and trip. He shows a lot of pace, but for the same reason, why would you bring a Gold Cup horse back? So if a horse is comfortable at a trip, but with age, some horses might need further, so you'd often see horses like Altior would have been a very pacey 2-miler in his early years, where now he's vulnerable now to a slower run race, albeit he still has the class. He's just not as impressive as he was maybe, but he's still getting it done. So it's probably an individual thing. But horses are versatile. Moscow would have got further, and especially like that when you look, it's similar to looking at Paisley Park and English Drever and Big Bucks and these horses. If they relax, they will get further. That's a big help. If you have a horse who runs keen, and if you have a horse who's been running over 2 miles and they're used to racing at pace, and you try and step them up and trip, and they're used to racing that gear faster, it can be harder to get them to relax. So it's easier with a horse his natural way is to be relaxed. He's better when he does step up and trip. So, but it's very much an individual thing. But if it's not broken, you wouldn't fix it. If you have a champion hurdler, why would you want to stare?
Fair enough. I agree with that statement. Rory Swandles asked, Barry, did you ever proper wind up another jockey during a race? Not in a bad way, just for the crack. I heard one, I think it was a flat jockey back in the day, who was saying, I can't remember the anecdote, but basically if they were upsides one that they knew could be prone to getting a bit wound up, they'd whistle or click or make some noises that aren't helping the opposition, basically. In terms of winding jockeys up in a race, is that something that goes on a lot, and did you ever do it?
Would go on a bit, alright. There'd be probably more winding up done afterwards if someone had gone a bit too soon or whatever. But Paul Carberry was definitely.
Or if you've gone the wrong way at Wetherby, Barry, maybe there was a bit of winding up then, was there?
No, there was actually no one really wound me up that day. It was more of a silent way to come back into there. There was no one was going to start slagging me off for that one. But no, bad. Paul was very good at it, as you saw him on Beef or Salmon when he waved on Best Mate when he beat him in Leopardstown at Christmas there, good few years back now. So that was Paul. I remember turning in Tralee one day, and I'm travelling really well, and Paul is pushing away and he's singing to me, I need a miracle, and he got his miracle because he went and beat me.
I like that. I mean, Paul Carberry, Jamie Spence on the flat waving on Sariska. I love those sort of moments. They're probably a bit naughty, but I love them. open floor type questions now. Tony, anything you've got for any of us in terms of questions? Actually, I have one for both of you, this Boum Photo question. I think that he's one of the most uninspiring 2-time Gold Cup winners ever. And that's a bold statement to make, but there's something about him that I don't feel like the public latch on to. It's whether we either just, it's because we see him so rarely maybe, I'm not entirely sure. Is that a fair statement, Tony, or am I just missing something here?
Why does he not maybe have a big public following? He's just another Willie Mullins horse, I suppose, in one way, the conveyor belt there, and he probably doesn't have the raw brilliance of some of the Willie Mullins horses there, like the Faheens and the Annie Powers of the world, and the Hurricane Flays who ran all the time, who had the longevity and did run the 3 or 4 times a season maybe, and also Hurricane Fly had a comeback in there as well, a couple of absolute resurrections. I do like him though. I think he's a massive following round Tramore anyway. I think they packed the place out on New Year's Day last year anyway when they came to see him come back for a second year. I'm a great believer in that these horses should run a bit more often, but I actually think they found the perfect recipe with this horse, because I actually think, and if you go back and look at his novice days and some of his jumping, I just still think he's a dodgy jumper. Willie Mullins, I was laughing at Willie Mullins last week giving out about them taking fences out. To me that was the funny one now, because to me he'd be a trainer who'd benefit from a few fences been left out with some of the jumping performances out of his chasers and novice chasers over the years. And Boum Photo, to me, if you looked at his novice chase season, he had falls aplenty and errors aplenty. I think they found the perfect recipe for him. Go down to Tramore on New Year's Day, softest of soft fences in Ireland, hop round there and get him to Cheltenham and hope for the best. And it's worked out perfectly the last twice, and they're going to try and bring up the 3-timer this year. I would wonder if they were running him now in the couple of Leopardstown races, possibly down Ryle on to Punchestown, would he finish up making mistakes and perhaps even fall? So that would be my take on him. To me, he's still the horse to beat, because while it's difficult to repeat in Gold Cups, he still hasn't really got the miles on the clock. He hasn't been maybe like some of the UK horses slogging through Haydock there for the Betfair Chase, or the King George, or the Cotswold Chase in January. He's still plenty fresh.
Yeah, like you said, I think they have probably got the perfect recipe with him. I don't know, something about him I find a touch uninspiring, but it's probably a bit harsh. Tony, any more questions for predominantly Barry, because I'm not entirely sure.
I finally got finished reading Barry's book, and one of the interesting segments of it, of course, was the whole JP McManus relationship. Probably, I don't know, Barry mightn't feel like answering this at all. Well, we mightn't make it the next year if we talk too much about JP. But anyway, Barry, I was fascinated with just the conversation. He took you in one time at Punchestown, and he kind of said to you, give you a bit of an ultimatum and that, and I think the words he used was, some of the trainers maybe aren't happy with you, a few of the rides you were given, and it was a very interesting what you came back at him with, one thing and another. But I wondered, actually reading it, would that have been him thinking that, or would that have been the trainers thinking that, and would he be so hands on that he'd be watching every single race every day of his own horses to see? And I was fascinated also by the thing that you said to him, was it because I had too many horses that pulled up? That never registered with me at all, that you weren't lying, maybe you thought yourself maybe you pulled horses up, maybe looking after them, and maybe some people would be frowned upon. So I thought that was a really interesting aspect of the book, that maybe, aside from the more obvious things about the high profile horses.
Well, I suppose a few things. One, he watches everything. He loves his racing, keeps an eye on everything, loves following them, loves watching them at all levels. So no, he sees it all. And yeah, there was obviously a few trainers weren't happy, and they expressed that view. And maybe there was more than a few, and maybe there was a weight against me. It caught me by surprise at the time. And he questioned, there was a rumour going around, was I going to retire that season? And I hadn't heard. I'd only just heard it a few days beforehand. So he'd heard the rumour, and he asked me, was I planning on retiring, because obviously lads were questioning my riding, and then this rumour was out, and he was asking me what was I planning, and I had no plans. So it was what was I said to him? I said it was a cup of tea is a dangerous thing in Punchestown, seeing as Davy Russell had one with Michael O'Leary there a few years beforehand as well. But the last thing he said to me before he left was prove him wrong, and about 2 or 3 weeks later he put me on Ballyosheen in Killarney, and he ripped round. And that was the start of the turning of the tide, if you like. So no, he gave me the opportunity to prove myself, but obviously he had to let me prove myself to the fellas who were doubting me.
Interesting. Now that's just a bit of a book spoiler for me, Tony, because I haven't really got that far yet.
Oh well.
So thanks for that. I look forward to that chapter. I've got one more question for you, Barry, actually. Just in terms of great Cheltenham rides that you weren't on board, as in that you've watched and thought, wow, that's class. For me, in more recent years, not so much rides actually, but just actual equine performances. Well, actually a ride presenting Percy in the RSA as a novice, I thought as far as rides go around there, Davy Russell was just different gear that day. And then in terms of performances, Vitor in the JLT, I just remember watching that and thinking, I don't know if it gets any better than that. That is like magic. The way he jumped, the way he travelled, the way he won. What for you, going back a few more years perhaps, did you see or watch at Cheltenham and think it sort of blew your mind in the way that maybe Vitor blew mine?
Yeah, Vitor definitely did. He was so impressive. Davey gave presenting Percy a brilliant ride, but presenting Percy, in fairness to him, had handicap experience, so he wasn't the rawest novice that ever went out there. As regards brilliant rides, JT McNamara on Rit Dove in the 4 mile when he beat Timbera. Davy Russell was on Timbera, and neither horse wanted to win. And JT was brilliant on Rit Dove. I think it was 2002. Yeah, he was class. So yeah, that was one that would stand out from memory though. You kind of caught me in the hop with that question. So
sorry, that
brilliant.
was a bit unfair. We actually, to viewers, we actually planned these shows pretty meticulously, and that was a completely off the cuff question. I don't know where it came from, but I just
Rachel Blackmore and Honeysuckle was beautiful last year, like the way she shot Paul Townend off.
Nipping
Yeah,
around
that's
the inside like that.
Possibly a race that she shouldn't have won. I think that's always to me that would be the definition of a very good ride. You know, maybe Benny the Jew was the better horse, but Rachel probably give hers a better ride on the day.
Yeah, another magic moment for sure. We could rattle on with these questions and chatting away about racing for forever, or I could anyway, but that isn't the point of these shows. They're supposed to be nice and sharp and snappy. So I hope we have answered a few of your questions well. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion, and if you have, let us know. Please subscribe, please like, give us a retweet, but mainly just reply with some comments in the comment section below on YouTube, and let us know if you enjoyed this show, specifically what you enjoyed, and we might do it again for you further down the line. It's been good fun. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Barry, how are you spending your festivities, please?
I'll be eating lots of turkey at Vanessa. I mightn't bother with the Brussels sprouts. I see you're dining out with Brussels sprouts tonight, but I'm not a Brussels sprout fan, so a bit of turkey and ham will do me fine, and maybe a glass or two of red maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to get stuck into a bit of mulled wine in about 4.5 minutes' time. Tony Keenan, how does your festive period look? Probably looking at a lot of entries, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mind the Brussels sprouts, and I'll have all of that stuff that Barry's having, and you can probably throw in the form book as well, so it's perfect really, perfect recipe for a good 4 days at Leopardstown in Limerick, and a bit of rest as well.
Well, look, enjoy it, guys. Look, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all you viewers out there. I hope you're having a good one. Enjoy it. Get stuck into food, drink, and some racing. This was Off the Fence Christmas special.